I knew something was off the day I apologized for taking too long to buy a sandwich. Not for being late, not for forgetting something, just for taking a normal lunch break without updating Mia. That's when it hit me. I was reporting my movements like a teenager with a strict parent. I'm 31, IT support in Denver. Pretty average guy. My life used to run on simple routines. Bike to work, grab coffee, game a bit in the evenings. When I met Mia, everything felt brighter. She was confident, charming, the kind of person who pulled attention without trying. I thought dating her meant leveling up my life. The first warning signs looked like affection. Text me when you get to work so I know you're safe. Let me know when you're heading home. I just worry. Sweet at first, then routine, then expected. Soon every small deviation became a conversation. You didn't answer for 15 minutes. What happened? You're going out again? I thought we planned to spend time together. I didn't say you couldn't go. I just don't get why you want to. I kept explaining myself because it was easier than arguing. If I reassured her quickly, she relaxed. If I hesitated, she got quiet and emotional. She wasn't yelling. She was disappointed. And somehow that felt worse. She started pointing out my patterns, always in that calm, thoughtful tone. You get distant when you're stressed. You shut down when I try to help. You avoid conflict because it scares you. Hearing those lines enough times makes you wonder if they're true. Within months, I was adjusting my life around her moods. I left work exactly on time. I answered messages instantly. I cut back on seeing friends because she always had a subtle reason why the timing was inconvenient. If I brought up feeling controlled, she'd sigh and say, "Why would you assume I'm trying to hurt you? I'm just trying to connect." That logic was hard to argue with. That was the point. The shift into real tension happened quietly. One afternoon, I walked out of a meeting and saw 8 missed texts from her, all escalating. The final one said, "If you cared, you'd answer. I don't know why you're treating me like this." My stomach dropped. I hadn't done anything wrong, just worked. My coworker Nate glanced over my shoulder and said, "That's kind of intense, man." It was the first outside voice I'd heard in months, and suddenly everything clicked. I wasn't imagining the pressure. I wasn't being sensitive. I was being monitored, evaluated, corrected. That night, standing in my own kitchen, phone in hand, rehearsing how to explain a 5-minute stop at the store, something in me finally snapped into focus. This wasn't concern. This wasn't love. This was control wrapped in softness. And once I saw it clearly, I couldn't unsee it. The escalation didn't happen in one big dramatic moment. It happened in tiny, constant corrections, like she was sanding down parts of me she didn't like. Mia wanted access to everything for transparency. First, it was sharing locations, just in case. Then asking for my phone password for emergencies. Then gently suggesting we share calendars so she could help me stay organized. She always said it softly, warmly, like she was offering support. It was hard to say no without feeling like I was being paranoid or ungrateful. So I agreed, one request at a time, until she had a wall-to-wall view of my entire life. And that's when she started rearranging it. If my mom called, Mia would hover nearby, pretending to tidy something but clearly listening. If a female coworker messaged in the group chat, she'd ask, "Why does she sound so friendly?" If I tried to make weekend plans, she'd say, "I thought you wanted to spend more time with me. I guess I misread that." None of it was loud. None of it was obvious from the outside. But every choice I made came with an invisible cost. The breaking point, the real one, came on a Thursday. I was supposed to grab dinner with Nate and a couple guys from work. Just burgers, nothing wild. I told her the night before, and she said, "Sure, have fun." But halfway through the day, she started texting, "I feel weird today. I thought we were hanging out tonight. Are you seriously still going? I don't know why you're choosing them over us." By the time I got off work, she'd sent a long message about feeling abandoned. And because I was worn down and tired of feeling guilty, I canceled. Again. When I got home, she greeted me with a sad smile and said, "See, this is why I love you. You always come through." Something twisted in my stomach. That wasn't love. That was reward. That night while she slept, I scrolled through our message history, page after page of subtle pressure disguised as affection, and I saw something I hadn't noticed before. Patterns, cycles. Emotional cues lined up with times she wanted something. I realized her apologies were never apologies. Her tears were never just tears. Every conflict ended with me taking responsibility, even when I didn't do anything wrong. The worst part? I could see exactly how she'd trained me to accept it. The final push came 2 days later. I was at work when Mia suddenly showed up unannounced. Eyes red, breathing fast. She said she'd had a bad feeling when I didn't answer her last message quickly enough. My phone was literally in my pocket. I was helping a customer. My manager pulled me aside afterward and said, "Is everything okay at home? This is concerning." I laughed it off, but inside something broke loose. The shame, the exhaustion, the constant self-policing. I walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked older, tired, smaller, and right then, a single thought finally felt true instead of scary. I'm done, not with a fight, not with a dramatic exit, but with the quiet, steady determination of someone who's finally awake. I didn't know the full plan yet, but I knew one thing. I was going to take my life back, and Mia was going to reveal exactly who she really was without me saying a word. Once I made the decision, everything became clearer. Not easier, just clearer. I didn't confront Mia. I didn't hint at anything. I kept my routine exactly the same, because the last thing I wanted was a dramatic blow-up that she could twist into proof that I was unstable or ungrateful. Instead, I started collecting the little things. Screenshots of messages where she guilt-tripped me for normal activities. Voice notes where she shifted blame with that soft, innocent tone. Calendar edits she made without asking. A log of every time she showed up unannounced at my work. Individually, they looked small. Together, they painted a pattern, one she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of. I also turned off location sharing quietly. Not instantly, just for a few hours at a time, then a bit longer each day. Mia noticed, of course. She always noticed. But instead of asking directly, she said things like, "Did you change something? I don't see your location. Maybe it's a glitch." I played dumb. "Oh, weird, must be my phone." The less reactive I became, the more she tried to tighten her grip. It confirmed what I already knew. Her calm sweetness only worked when I played along. Next, I stopped explaining myself. If I stayed late at work, I didn't send a long, reassuring text. If a friend messaged me, I answered without guilt. If Mia asked a question loaded with emotional hooks, "Are you avoiding me? Did I do something wrong? Do you even care about us?" I replied with short, neutral statements she couldn't twist. "I'm busy right now. We can talk later. I'm fine." She hated it. Not openly. She never did anything openly. But I could feel the tension building like a slow electrical hum in the apartment. The part that mattered most came next. I scheduled a check-in meeting with HR, not to accuse, not to dramatize, just to document that someone close to me was repeatedly showing up at my workplace without notice and causing disruption. They were understanding and said they'd make a note of it in case it continued. That note would matter later. Then the final piece. I asked Nate and another coworker, Jenna, if they'd be willing to vouch for a few things if needed. They didn't need details. They'd seen enough. Both said yes immediately. With everything in place, I stopped participating in the cycle completely. No reassurance, no emotional caretaking, no reacting to her subtle panic, just calm distance. And that's when Mia's mask finally slipped. It happened one evening after I got home late. Traffic, that's all. She waited exactly 10 minutes before launching into a monologue about feeling disconnected and trying so hard to make us work. I didn't argue. I just said, "I hear you, but I'm tired. I'm going to shower." Her face froze. Not sad, not hurt, exposed. She wasn't prepared for a version of me she couldn't steer. The next morning, she crossed the line for the last time. She showed up at my job again, this time crying loudly in the lobby, telling the receptionist she needed to see me right away. She knew exactly how public it was. My manager stepped in and firmly told her she couldn't disrupt the workplace again or security would be involved. Mia looked shocked, betrayed, like I had orchestrated this humiliation on purpose. I didn't say a word. I just watched her realize she'd finally pushed too far in front of witnesses who weren't under her charm. That was the crack I'd been waiting for. Now it was time to end this on my terms, quietly, cleanly, and in a way she couldn't rewrite. Ending it wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. That evening, when we were both home, I sat at the kitchen table and told Mia we were done. No speeches, no accusations, just a steady sentence I'd rehearsed in my head a dozen times. I'm ending the relationship. I'm moving out next week. She stared at me like she didn't understand the language I was speaking. Then the performance began. First confusion, then soft hurt, then trembling disappointment, then finally the quiet voice she always used when she wanted control more than comfort. After everything I've done for you, you're really abandoning me. I didn't respond emotionally. I just repeated, I'm ending the relationship. That's when she snapped, not loudly, but with precision. You can't just leave. You're unstable right now. I think you're making an impulsive decision. We should talk to someone before you do anything drastic. That line told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't fighting for the relationship. She was fighting for the narrative. But it was too late. I stood, grabbed my overnight bag, and said, I'll stay at a friend's place. She demanded to know who, where, why, how long. I gave her nothing. When I stepped outside, the air felt different, colder but freeing in a way I hadn't felt in months. The fallout came fast. The next day, she texted my manager claiming I was emotionally unstable and might act unpredictably. She tried to flip the story, classic manipulation, but HR already had records of her unannounced visits, her disruptions, and the witnesses who'd seen her behavior. My manager called me in, told me exactly what she said, and then added, Don't worry, we're aware of the situation. Her attempt at reversing the narrative only confirmed what I documented. A few days later, I returned to the apartment with 2 friends to grab the rest of my things. Mia tried one last tactic, crying, apologizing, promising therapy, saying she just wanted to feel close again. None of it landed. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I just said, Take care, Mia, and walked out. No fireworks, just closure. The real revenge wasn't a single act. It was the quiet, undeniable fact that once I stopped playing along, her entire system collapsed. She couldn't guilt me. She couldn't spin the story. She couldn't use my workplace as leverage. Every tactic failed because I stopped giving her the reactions she needed to control me. A month later, Nate told me she called the office again, asking if I seemed happier without her. The receptionist told her they couldn't share anything and ended the call quickly. Even in the end, she wanted a script she could guide, but she didn't get one. As for me, I moved into a small studio, started biking to work again, and reconnected with people I'd quietly pushed away. My nights are peaceful now. My phone doesn't feel like a leash. I sleep without tension in my jaw. If there's any moral to what happened, it's this. Manipulation doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it looks like concern, softness, or patience. Until you realize every one of those caring moments comes with a price attached. Once you stop paying, the whole illusion falls apart. And when it does, you finally get your life back.